Today we're going to talk about the only two fears that you're born with. Hey guys, it's Abby and welcome back to another video. So, think about it. If I were to ask you what are 5 fears that you have right now, go ahead and think about it a second. Is it fear of heights? Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of speaking in front of a lot of people? Maybe it's fear of getting close to somebody. Maybe it's the fear of abandonment, right? Just go ahead and spend some time with it. Yep. Yep. Okay. So, what if I were to tell you that you're only born with 2 fears and every other fear that you just listed was actually learned? So the only 2 fears that you are born with are the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Obviously, there's extreme reasons for this. It's because of your survival, your protection, right? If you're falling, you're in great danger of falling too far and hurting yourself. And obviously, if there's loud noises, it could indicate danger as well. So now think about, did loud noises or the fear of falling, was that on your list? Was that anywhere near your list? Most likely no. If so, then congratulations. But if I were to name that list, fear of falling and loud noises would not be anywhere close. I probably wouldn't actually even think about them, because if I hear loud noise, I mean, granted, if it's an extreme one that I don't understand what's happening, I might get a little uncomfortable, maybe a little afraid because of the unknown. Fear of falling, sure. Several times I've woken up because I was falling in my dream, but I would have not listed those things. So think about it. Every other fear other than those 2 things, you've learned. You've come into this life without them, and since then, you have actually learned them. So the great news in today's video is that whatever you listed in that list, whatever you have listed on your paper or wherever you put it, maybe in your brain, you can unlearn those things. So is it afraid of speaking in front of an audience? Now, for instance, with that, what is it? What are you actually afraid of? Are you afraid of saying the wrong words? Are you afraid that you won't know what to say? Are you afraid that people will think that you're not an expert? Do they think that maybe you think that they find you like an imposter, like you shouldn't actually be there? If you start reversing these into actually what you're afraid of basically, they could be a multitude of things. But for instance, if you're afraid that you'll get on stage and that you won't know what to say or you'll forget, that really isn't being afraid of speaking in front of people. It's more so a lack of trust in yourself. You don't trust that you'll be able to perform, that you'll have the information when you need you to be there for yourself. So when you start dissecting these things, you see that that's not actually the fear. The fear is at that root, like you don't trust yourself. Okay, then you think, what happened in your life in which you would learn to not trust yourself? When you were little, did your parents or maybe a sibling or a cousin or maybe a classmate, did they demean you? Did they say anything that would start to erode your confidence within yourself, start to erode that you don't really know what's best for you? Or maybe you watch somebody, a parent or a guardian of something, somebody in an somebody of authority, you watch them do that to themselves. They never trusted themselves. They would make a decision and then doubt it. Or worst of all, they never made a decision. So they actually never got to practice to see if what they knew actually was relevant. That's the best thing, that when you do fail, and I use that term in quotations, when you fail, when you miss the mark, when you set out and don't quite accomplish what you meant to accomplish or wanted to accomplish, the failure is giving you information that you didn't know to start with. So now you have a much better chance actually of completing the goal because you have the new information. So failure is really bonuses. It's going to give you more information, but you have to crack that egg. You have to be willing to put yourself out there and potentially fall on your face. But what does it mean to fall on your face? It's not necessarily what's happening. It's neutral. It's the meaning that you're giving it that is actually complicating and causing you stress. Now, if you think about another fear that you'll be abandoned, fear that someone will leave. Now, what is that? You can go deeper into that too. Well, you're afraid of being alone. You're afraid that potentially you're not lovable. You're afraid that maybe somebody's going to find out who you really are. So you start looking at that. That's not really afraid of somebody leaving. It's really afraid of someone never being there, someone never really seeing you and finding you valuable. So most likely you don't really find yourself valuable, and you potentially find you're unworthy. So again, when you start to really get down to the nucleus of these beliefs, these fears, you learn them. So you learned I'm not worthy. You learned I shouldn't trust myself. And when was it in your life that that thought first came into your mind? If you think about it right now, you might be able to instantly come up with an answer, or it might be a little more resistance. You might need to take a couple deep breaths, relax, and just see where your mind goes. Because your subconscious knows exactly why this is coming up. And one thing you could do is actually, as you're drifting into sleep, you'll kick into theta mode. Your brain goes from beta to alpha to theta. And so theta brainwave is actually when you're going to be able to access your subconscious. So if you ask yourself, right as you're drifting off in the twilight, you say, why do I feel like I can't trust myself? And just sit in that. Don't look for an answer. Don't force yourself to do anything, but just sit in that. You'll be surprised at what information you have access to that you didn't understand you did. You thought, I don't know, because you believed that you didn't know. So you've just been holding on to that. So if something in your mind is like, oh, I've got the answer for that, and that's I don't know, you're not going to keep seeking, because that checkbox is already marked and you don't have to search any further. But when you start to really unwind why you have these fears, it's not something that you're born with. It's something that you learned, like I've said. And the beauty of it is, if you learned it, you can unlearn it. You can start to see, oh, wait a second. When I was little, I got up in front of the class and I got nervous. I was only 6 years old and I didn't know what to say. Little you thought, man, I never want to do that again, because that was embarrassing. That was scary. Well, at the time that did feel scary, but when you look back at it as an adult, you are not in danger. And yes, you might have got embarrassed, and that's okay. But you can see now that if you're going to use that 6-year-old reasoning for your 25, 30, however old you are, you're using the little kid, 6-year-old you, whatever age it was, and using that reasoning for your current adult life. And you would never think, oh, okay, well, I'm going to ask a child what I should do with this, investment opportunity, or I'm going to ask this kid what I should tell the banker when I'm trying to refinance my house. That seems kind of silly, because they're playing house, they don't really understand the depths of things that are happening in the world. And that's beautiful. And also, it should be very telling that you're using, and I do it too, we all do this, because those memories that we have that we're unconscious to right now, they're still ruling our lives. They're unconscious beliefs, an unconscious bias to how we should act, because at one point it helped keep us safe. Again, when you were asked to go on stage and you thought, oh, I'm not going to volunteer because last time I got scared and that wasn't very fun. Well, then you just got in the habit of thinking that was the answer. So now you just need to think, oh, well, do I want to continue living with that reasoning of my little kid self? And if so, that's your decision. But you have a choice now. It's no longer unconsciously running your life, and you aren't afraid of it. You're choosing, I'd rather not. But without really looking into that situation, you're going to be duping yourself and fooling yourself that you have this fear, that this fear has a right to be in your life. And when you rewind to understand that the only two fears you're born with are the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises, you'll start to see there's a lot of things in your life that you experienced as a child, as younger you, and you stored them as things that you should do now. That's not quite helping you anymore. And you need to look into those beliefs and look into those memories to see what you can free yourself from, so that you can live in a more preferred version, a more preferred reality that you want to live in. And if you go on not questioning why you're afraid of things, not questioning where that origin was when you first felt that feeling, then you will live a life according to your past, which your past will simply be your future. So you get to choose today. What are those fears? What do you believe? And when's the first time you felt them? when you start exploring in that mentality and through that modality, you will begin to unhook from these unconscious beliefs and start being conscious of the beliefs that you want to now perpetuate into the future, the beliefs you want to begin today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If so, please click like, share it with those that you think will find value. Hit subscribe if you haven't. Hit the bell notification, let you know the second I release my next video, which is every single day. And I'll see you on the next one.